beautiful solstice.
Bienvenidas. Welcome. You are here with all three of us. Yay. Siobhan Hoover with Warrior Mother, Ali Cortez with Bienestar CCC, and Ana Rosa Rizo Centino with Que Madre. We are here talking about big V energy. So I got my coffee ready. I'm going to hand it over to you, Ali.
The reason it's being handed over is that this morning I was listening to that song, The Big D Energy, and I have to be slowing down. So I'm like, I don't want to say the whole word. We're on the radio. And I was like, you know what? What about the big V energy, right? We're like just so much healing and so much sources of energy, vitality, source, nurturing, love, just identification with our authenticity and leading. Like what I love about this show as that we talk about empowerment, we talk about healing, and we also talk about leading from the heart, and it's so connected to the big V energy, right? Like where there is a heartbeat, there is a beat down there too. And so that connection and like just the that energy of this is who I am, and I cultivate and nurture pleasure, joy, and my voice and my expression, and I don't have to suppress. I can just be. And so that's the energy that I was channeling. And like I was walking my dog, and I just wanted to start dancing in the middle of the street, and I was giving like minimum F's. Because and I started kind of just, moving in the space that usually I don't. And I was like, I'm taking up space, I'm smiling. And maybe it's also the spring energy, what's blooming. Maybe everything, the times that I felt lost and alone during the winter, it was actually just like soul seeking, and it's starting to bloom. And so maybe there's just a synergy right now that's happening, that if I can share about, my experience, and maybe others are also experiencing this collective like spring, sunny vibes, blooming, take up space, be bloom.
Big.
Would love to bring that because that's powerful. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, when I think big energy, big V energy, I'm thinking confidence, I'm thinking power, I'm thinking, bringing life into this world. Like you said, just cultivating love and really just soaking in all of you, and who you are. And I like that you kind of referred to dance in that, because I feel like in the V energy, there's movement, right? It's like, it's fluid, it's an expression. And I think we need to connect with that more. You know.
Yeah, for me, it means not being afraid to be feminine. Because I think when we hear the term leadership or like executive, like you think, oh, I got to wear a suit and a tie, like I haven't worn a suit in probably like 15 years. And it's not something that I plan on doing ever again, because I'm perfectly comfortable in a skirt and a dress. And I think that it's important that we as women can feel powerful no matter what we look like, and just whatever feels good to us when we step in a room. I always go back to the hoops and red lipstick, but that's kind of my vibe. Today I got beads, and I love beaded earrings too. So that's definitely, for me, it's either hoops or beaded earrings. But I just really think about authenticity and being exactly who you are, and knowing that people need what you have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go for it, love.
I was gonna say that's hard sometimes to be who you are and be completely comfortable in that. It's all this outside pressure. I'm more like, if your standards, I don't care if my lipstick offends you or whatnot. I don't care if I'm showing a little bit too much. I just don't anymore. And I think that that kind of came with age and maturity, in a way that is like, well, you know what? This is this is me and this is who I am. And, kind of, it's like in a professional setting, take it or leave it. I'm still getting the job done. I'm still, representing our organization well. However, I'm still going to be me in a way.
Heck yeah. And I love what you said. It's like it's a vibe, right? And a vibe is frequency. Like that is energy. And I've learned through just so many ups and downs throughout this journey, especially about, leadership. And that always had been something very difficult for me to understand that and like even embody what it meant, like what is it to be a leader? And so through it all, I really learned it's like it's about, it's not what you serve, it's what you're transmitting, and there's like this like level of serenity and surrender to notice and be aware of, okay, what am I transmitting right now? And that's, I think, the refuge that we find when we are present. And then to like shift gears and say, you know what, today I have wounded parts that really need nurturing, so I'm going to go inward. But then there's times where you're like, I need these healed parts to kind of come out a little bit, and I need to draw them out. I need to nourish them. I need to call them in, right? Let's have a conversation with the healed parts that are the ones that like bring that vibe of your authenticity. And like, how do you like step into that part? How do you step into like hyping yourself up for who you are and everything that you are? Is really powerful because you're slowing down the transmission of all these other stories of what has been socialized of this is who you should be. And so we can slow down that transmission and say, you know what, I'm going to tune in to 96.5 FM LP. Oh, did you see what I did there? Where I'm healing, the empowerment, the leading from my heart, so that I can transmit that, that I can really bring that forward as modeling it, not just for like others, but for myself. I think that's what I'm learning, that I'm also observing myself through this journey, and how powerful it is to see myself, kind of just cultivate joy and cultivate pleasure even through the darkness, and then give myself that satisfaction of saying, yeah, there's moments where I feel confused because I'm a human. And then there's parts that also remind me that you're also a soul. And so the feeling confused and feeling lost is part of this healing journey. And you come home, and celebrate yourself when you come home. So I think that's where I've been, that I'm like, that is some big V energy. Like I'm coming home to me. I'm B, and I'm coming home, and I'm coming. I'm coming home. And I think that's where I find a lot of that energy source that sometimes can be very, I can bring in pride, confidence, and then it gets transmitted on. It's that vibe, it's that energy.
Well, you mentioned the P word, which is pleasure, which I think is a very important word that can only be felt if you dismantle shame. So, growing up as a woman, specifically women of color, there's so much shame put upon us that we need to brush off of our shoulders, because when you're able to do that, you're able to feel joy and pleasure. And even like the term pleasure activism, which Adrienne Maree Brown likes to talk about a lot. She's like one of the people that I really look to for the way she thinks about emerging strategy. For example, like when you're organizing with a group, nobody likes it when you come to a meeting and everyone's committed to doing things exactly the way they've always been done, because you're not being present with the people who are there now and the talents that they each bring to the table, and how you can do things in a way that includes everyone, and so I think that that's part of it too, is like everyone's going to feel good in this process if they are honored, and that begins with honoring yourself. If you're able to honor yourself, you can honor other people as well, just like you can't really truly love others unless you really and truly love yourself.
So true. And being in the service of others is I find a lot of pleasure in that. It's like the passion that I feel in serving others, it kind of it forces me to take a look inward, right? Like, oh, here I am preaching this word. And wait a minute, I need to take a moment of pause to look within. Am I also aligning with that? Is this something that feels good to me? So I really like that. And I like, Allie, at the beginning, you had said something about being in the dark and kind of like being buried. And you just think about like a plant and a seed, and you gotta put it in the dirt. You gotta give it a little bit of sun, give it a little bit of care, a little bit of water. And sometimes we are forced to do that. We gotta stay inside. We gotta ensure that we're getting the proper nutrients that we need, whatever that formula looks like for you. And then suddenly you bloom, and you're beautiful, and then you're able to share that energy with others. And when you do, it creates this entire garden of beauty. So I that all that like picture in my head when you had said that. And it's true. I just think that sharing our own light, but really taking a hard look at ourselves and healing ourselves first is the necessary step. So
I love what you're saying and about the plant. So if I just want to share really quick. So where I live, there's like a bike path. And so that's where I, do my walks every day with Kaya. And because of the sun, right? So the sun's shining a little bit more. I'm walking through and realize like there's these beautiful plants, that are coming up, and they're tiny little bulbs. And with the sun, it just started to like evoke a smell, and my nose immediately just like danced for joy. I was like, that smells like chamomile. And I just turned my head and I'm like, it's wild chamomile, and it makes me think about, how like there's certain plants that are considered weeds, according to some. And people are going back and forth, kind of just like, oh, it's just, weeds. And I'm like, I'm like doing a dance. I'm like, oh my God, like there is chamomile and it's wild chamomile and this is beautiful. And I'm just like, and I think for me, it was like a life lesson of like those people who know you and understand your value will do that. Will be like, oh, and there's people who are not, and they're just going to bypass or damage you or try to. And so, but yeah, I just thought about like they were underground and then now they're up, and it was a gift to be able to smell chamomile and to be soothed and an ally in my walking, and just being present. It brought me really grounded me more. So I think that was just for me a reflection. I'm always learning from nature, and it's like some people are going to stop and be like, wow, and some people are going to want to pick and take from you. And some people are just going to honor that you're here and you're present and keep walking by and appreciate and think about you. Mm-hmm. And some people will just be like, I don't give, I don't give.
Yeah. Well, manzanilla is so healing, and those people that don't appreciate it, it's their loss. And so it kind of makes me reflect on how I'm actually really happy that I'm not for everyone. Like there are people that will not acknowledge what I bring to the table, and that's their loss. When people really see you, right? When I feel seen, it's like, okay, these are my people. These are the people that I meant to walk this path with, and so that's why I'm so lucky. I feel so blessed and grateful that I got to share paths with both of you, because you are wildflowers in the best sense of the word. And I feel like I can't imagine not having ever met you both. And I just want to thank you for your presence and everything that you do, just waking up every day and being yourselves.
I'm grateful for you, Ana Rosa. It's so sweet. And it's like sometimes in our lives, spring cleaning also needs to happen in our relationships and our friendships. And I'm equally as grateful that the stars aligned for us to all come together in the way that it did. It was kismet. But when you do like spring cleaning, you purge, right? You purge the things that no longer serve you, that you no longer need. You got to like get the weeds out, and no matter what that looks like to you. I feel like sometimes in our relationships, that is so important for our mental health, our spirituality, um, and kind of just like a soul cleanse. Sometimes you might need a timeout from someone, sometimes you might need to distance from a friend or a family member. And I've been very unapologetic in that way lately, but it's like necessary. It's stagnant energy or negative energy sometimes that just needs to be cleared. And so yeah, I'm grateful for you two being around, because you guys are such a light. And you give me strength and power in a way that I don't think that you realize. So
Aw.
I love you.
Oh my goodness. I
It's
love you
healing.
so much. My life would suck if, and I know, like, I think my soul would, knew that until I met you all, and it's happy, and it feels so good to have these connections. And I still get a little bit surprised, and that people don't have this, and so I'm glad that we get to transmit this, whether it is to like empower each other, to be there for each other in all the ways that we can, to model that, and to really put that out there in the frequency of 96.5 FM LP, with the amazing Ana Rosa Rizzo, the incredible Siobhan Hoover, and Ali Cortez here with you, talking about empowering, healing, and really friendship, that connection, that soul connection. It's important to find it. I think sometimes when we're go go go, do, we're not just being, and we miss out on being with others that bring clarity to your life, and decrease confusion, because I think that's something that I'm learning more. I don't know if you noticed, the word confusion keeps coming up for me, because that's definitely a big theme that I'm understanding now more about, like the human condition to be confused. um but one of the beautiful things that I'm learning through like channeling is, there's something so sacred about becoming unconfused. And so you could do it for yourself, but we need each other for that as well. So there's people who bring confusion to your life, and then there's people who bring clarity. And so you can feel it very, but if it takes sometimes a while to like really trust it, and I know we've talked about like some of the things that in our show about like traumas, but like with sisterhood, and like friendships, and like from like elementary to junior high all the way to high school and then adults, and to like just be in a place where you're like, oh, I can rest here and be in like this loving embrace of my soul sisters. It's amazing. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Safe spaces are so valuable for me these days. And but it's taken a long time, like you said, to trust myself in that, like, well, this doesn't feel right, but really feeling loyal to people, or feeling as if I have to stay in it, and like, and work through it. And sometimes it's better just to say, you know what, no, this is not for me, and kind of like release in love.
Mm.
That's very, very
It-
hard.
It-
Very, very hard.
It's good to choose you sometimes.
And then when you have all these like soul sisters, it's even more big V energy.
And
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, well, you have them people to like bounce things off of, like, am I being ridiculous? Yeah. Or, sometimes, I like that, I can come to my friends and I have honesty sometimes, even when you don't want to hear it, or it's like, I do that. You're right. And then really like taking a hard look at yourself and being like, yeah, that is something I should probably work on, isn't it? And but not feeling criticized or belittled for it, but more so it is coming from a place of love. And I do think that has everything to do with the V energy, because we are nurturing and we are giving, you know, we want to kind of plant seeds. We want to bring each other more clarity, and that connection is key. So
I love that.
In the last few months, I've had friends, girlfriends, women friends, when we're talking about like people that they're thinking of dating, and them telling me that they decided that they're not good enough for such and such person. I'm like, what? Like, if anything, you're too good for them, you know? And so sometimes we have such a diminished view of ourselves that only our friends can show us is a diminished view of ourselves. And it takes that people holding up a mirror to us, which is like a real mirror instead of the distorted mirror that we have of ourselves because of whatever emotional baggage we have from before. And so I think that that's so beautiful that we can be mirrors for each other, and we can be that inlaket trait, tú eres mi otro yo. And that's to me like what this whole human existence is about, is like being those mirrors for each other and lifting each other up when we are not feeling strong. I know last week was a super difficult week, most difficult week of my year every year, because it's, you know, the anniversary of the Adelita's passing. And if it wasn't for friends that, you know, like made me get out of bed, that, you know, brought birthday cake to honor her birthday, you know, just little things where people would show me that I wasn't alone, it would have been much, much harder.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's the connection. That's the, you know, like you are important, and what you're going through is also important, and you're not alone in it, because it's, you know, it's in moments where, you know, our feelings, our emotions, what we're going through have been, you know, historically and also socialized in this like, oh, you know, why are you feeling this way, or why, you know, like snap out like that, like, you know, ponte las pilas. And it's like, you know, that's I think we're finally in a place where we can really externalize and say like, let me be and be with me, right? And if this isn't your jam, well, there's more, right? There's others who are can see me in all of it and know that this is me, this is also me, and everything in between. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful when someone can see you in all of that and still rejoice you and still be with you in that path and that journey that you're in.
Mhm. And I can say in loss that sometimes, you know, some years are harder than others, where sometimes you just feel like you do want to be in bed all day, and I think that's okay, as long as you don't stay there too long. And I think that there are other years where, you know, in my experience, it's been like, okay, I am so grateful for that time, that experience with that person, um, albeit, you know, very difficult, because, you know, you're human, and you want that physical presence to be here with you. Um, but I get it, and it kind of, you know, it's in waves, you know, and I know that. But I'm so glad that you have, you know, people in your life that kind of lift you up when you do need it. I know that there are folks out there that don't have that, and it's like, okay, well, what do they do? You know, how do they find connection with folks that would do something like that for them? So I don't know. I'm very grateful for it, and I just don't know if there are resources. Oh, like joining a church or joining a meetup group. You know, an exercise class. You know, a yoga class, something like that. I think people can do to find ways to meet people and have like a true you know, someone there who can back you up.
Is meetup still a thing?
I don't
Sorry.
know.
I'm a little.
When I said it, I was like,
No, I'm just like, it could totally be. I'm just, like what happens too, what's wonderful about this journey is, when you start finding, your people, right? Your vitaminas, the people that boost you. Additional people are wonderful and a blessing, but it's like you start kind of like that becomes your norm. Like I'm loved, I am seen, I'm cared. And so sometimes, like that's when I'm like, oh, I remember there was a time in my life that I was like really seeking out. Like I felt like I need to find community. And so if that's still a thing, good, like
I'm like, I don't know. But there are different, join a dance class, there are ways to find connection.
absolutely. So I'm curious, how do you both like hype yourself up when right? It's like there is a moment where, like I need to rest, I need to be in a state of depression, right? Like I need to be pressed down a little bit, right? How do you there comes a moment too that's like, and I think we find that when like, okay, I need now some I need to like lift up. How do you hype yourselves up when there's not a lot of access of your vitamin people around you or other things? Like how do you do it for yourself? Because I think that's something we can transmit to our listeners, how we've done it in days where it's just like I can't find it anywhere else, so I'm gonna have to like, it has to come from me. How do you all do that?
That's a good question.
Like right now I'm wearing this bright, coral top because for the last week I've just been wearing the same like gray leggings and just like not I don't know, it might sound superficial to some people, but sometimes when I have to snap myself out of that funk, I have to wear bright colors. I need to definitely do my eyeliner. I need to wear red lipstick. I need to wear either hoops or beaded earrings. I need to put lotion on because I just like, I need to feel good in my skin. So I think that for me, those are my go-to tools, in addition to like meditation and prayer. Yeah, I would say those are it for me.
Yeah, I have to agree. When you look cute or when you feel cute, I think it brings on a certain level of confidence. And so whatever ways that that feels good to you, maybe it might be wearing those gray sweats and and being in a tank with no bra and just being comfortable. But I do have to agree with the red lip and the hoop. That's like almost a daily thing for me. And then sometimes, I have this internal dialogue that it's really harsh. The person inside, I'm like, dang, gosh, she's like mean sometimes. But she's like, hey, like get your butt up and go ahead and like handle this day, and it's a very no nonsense kind of voice. And at times she can be gentle, but at times I just feel like she's sitting there like, nope, we're not doing this today, and kind of talk to myself in that way. And then I have to, when I move my body, I feel so much better about myself internally. So that is, through exercise, through dance. A lot of times it's lifting weights. It's just like it's moving that weight around and feeling powerful. That kind of aligns in my brain and in my spirit. So those are a couple things. And then sometimes I just kind of like hope I find power in my crystals and I'll stick one in my shirt or in my pocket. And everything has a frequency, everything has a vibe. And so I feel like these stones do too. And so, in my mind, it can be like Dumbo's feather, or it can be something that is actually real. I'm not quite sure, but whatever it is, it works for me. So. How about you,
How about you,
Allie?
Ellie?
Yeah.
No, I like, like, yeah, I'm like, I do like a combo of all of that. And um, I think for me, it's definitely in the dance and the movement. Um, and I need to like kind of like shake, like I need to shake myself in a way that feels good for me, right? Like I'm not just like shaking, like having music, but music that has like that like like just like some like
Beat.
beat, like a beat. And I'm
Twerking, Ellie? You talking about twerking? You take it out, girl. Shake it.
I wish I could twerk. I tried it. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, I could probably use some help.
Girl. I took a class at the pole studio. Once upon a
Oh,
time. That was fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, I digress.
I'm not even gonna lie. Like I've gone on YouTube, so I'm bettering, my twerking game. But like I think once I put on like, my headphones and I just like dance and just like move, it's like it really is like a limpia, like a cleansing of like the movement of the blood flow of connecting. Because when I do that also, it's such a sacred moment that I do it by myself, but I also invite my ancestors and I ask, for like can we dance together? Can we connect? You have something that I need right now. I need some of that medicina. And so I think connecting to my roots and dancing in honor of them and dancing in honor of like the life that I have right now and in gratitude kind of breaks me a little bit, yeah, from that inner critic, from that, that imposter syndrome, the
oh,
right?
Yeah, just strike a chord.
oh, well, because when you said imposter syndrome, I saw a reel, I think it was on TikTok, recently where this person, really awesome guy said, this is going to strike a chord with some people, but you have to hear it. It's not imposter syndrome. You are an imposter because these systems were not meant for you. And the reason why you're feeling this is because you need to change the system so that it is built for all of us.
Yeah.
Okay. The internet never fails me every single day. It's like either something to really make me laugh or something so profound that I'm like, where did that come from? Like
Yeah.
Because I kept wondering, why do I keep facing these situations? And it's because I got to do something about it.
Definitely. Yeah. And it can be overwhelming sometimes, it's like, okay, here's a tall order, but it becomes less overwhelming when like we're in it together, that you're connecting with like soul sisters, we're with soul brothers too, who are doing this work, and constantly like expanding our lenses and having some like, I think just, compassion. I heard something. I've been really tuning into like the power of storytelling too. And so there's been stories about compassion throughout history. And it came down to like simplifying. It's like when there's no compassion, there is only death. And that can mean so many things, right? So many things. And so I think that definitely like for me was like, wow, like how important it is to lead from the heart. Because when you lead from the heart is also like compassion, and there's going to be barriers like, you, like that person said, being the imposter, shame, institutional racism, all these levels and intersectionalities of oppression that really we are up against all that. And that's real and that is felt and we move through it. So when we get to say, you know what, pause, reset, I'm going to joyfully like, bring joy and cultivate it and feel it in this body that I have today, it's such a powerful resistance to all of that too. And a message to yourself that, you're here for a reason. You matter.
There's that big V energy.
That's a big V energy. Yeah, give life, give life.
and feeling worthy and having that compassion for yourself is is difficult for some. And so like, how do we find that worthiness, within us? How do we find that confidence? And I think it is digging into that V energy and really just embracing it.
Mhm.
Love yourself, everybody.
What a gift to be able to like find yourself again and bring in that self-love. That's part of our spirit journey to like constantly cultivate and give gift to ourselves, and that's the self-love. So I love that you said that, Siobhan.
Mm.
So much good stuff. So much good stuff here on 96.5 FMLP on the Kim Madre Show. You're listening to Ana Rosa Rizzo, Siobhan Hoover, and Ali Cortez talking about healing, empowerment, and leading from the heart. Really glad that you're here with us, tuning in and listening. We're here for you. So we're talking about that big V energy. So much we have covered. What else do we have to say about big V energy?
Well, that I never again want to hear anyone use any kind of derogatory, anything relating to this beautiful part of us, because if anything, it is stronger than the D in so many ways. Because people say, oh, you're a big, P word, the other word for the V.
Yeah.
I'm like, really, you wish you were.
Honestly, though, I kind of like was wondering that one day, like, why is that like such an insult? And I'm like, oh, is it more like a cat, like a scaredy cat? Like I came to that conclusion, like maybe it's more like scaredy cat versus female anatomy. Like maybe it's that instead. At least that's what I like to think of it as. But you're
Well,
right.
it's part of the misogyny, right? Because there's always so many words attributed to our gender in a derogatory way, which we have to break out of and bring attention to the fact that it is intentional.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I think like just there's so much history that has really empowered that. And so, I think being just in this place of like, you know what, I'm gonna defend this, and I don't know why, but I'm gonna do it. And I think that has been kind of a little bit my journey. I'm like, I don't know about that. And then like being like leaning in more and learning more, and then like histories teach. Like I'm sorry, I'm on this like whole other like place in my world where I'm like really uncovering a lot of history that is still playing out for me in many ways. Like, and here's another theme that we can talk about in our next show, maybe like scarcity mindset, our money stories, healing, like what is our relationship with money? And this is where it's like, you know what, let's incorporate, let's weave in this big V energy when it comes to our financial freedom, to our, cultivating wealth and what that means to us, redefining success. And I think that big V energy is a big, it's a big energy that can really do that limpia and that wash and like give back life, nurture us back to life, to who we are and where we're meant to go and be, so that we keep, going. I think sometimes the hard thing about taking pauses is that you feel like, oh great, now I'm delaying, it's like, but to take a pause and then bring in that big V wave of like, I am life, I am worthy because I am here, I am celebrated by all my ancestors that prayed for me, that fought for me, like I am so loved, and all these other stories don't matter. The reason I say this is because like one thing that happened to me this weekend, ugh,
I felt a story coming on.
there's so many stories. I'm like, there's been a lot of revelations around me that I'm like, okay, life, I get it, I'm tuned in, but slow down. So I'm trying to slow it down through stories. I was waiting in line at this bakery, and there was this like white lady behind me, and she was like really close to me, but she kept like, she was like guarding me away from like, there was like this pastry. So I was like, what is she doing? So I looked at her a couple of times, like, I see you and I'm uncomfortable. And, so I was, giving my order, and I pointed at the pastry that I wanted, which is the one she was right next to. And I was like, oh, there was two. there was 2 pastries left. So I asked for it, and she's like, "Are you gonna take both pastries? I really want one." And I was like, "No, I just want one. There's another one there." And she's like, "Oh, good, because I don't want to have to kill you for this." And I looked at her, and I was like, I'm like, "Do you realize what you just said? Do you like?" And no, so I looked at her, I was like, "You can't, even if you tried." She was like, "Oh." I was like, "What are you doing, lady?" Right?
Wow.
But it's, again, that's a story, right? It's like, you don't belong, you shouldn't have that, like, what are you doing here? I was in a space that was white centered, um, but I still had the audacity to walk in and be myself and all my Latinidad, bringing, my energy. And it bothered her, and I was like, "That's your problem." And she externalized something that is deeply rooted into history there. And I responded back and I said, "No." So I think it's like, there's so many narratives and stories that still play out, and they are insidious. And that, where I'm like, this is that big V energy. I'm like, I'm here. It bothers you. I'm glad I'm here, but at the end I was like, oh, I had to go kind of like nourish myself back a little bit. I'm like, did that really happen? Ew.
It just trips me out that some white people are so clueless about their positionality in the world. Like, you as a white person think you can tell a brown person, I don't want to have to kill you for something, when that does happen every day, like in different parts of this country, including here. So I just, yeah, I'm not going to use the word, but yeah, that's disconcerting. But I'm so glad that you stood up for yourself and got that sweet pastry.
I did that. I was like, all of me is having so much pleasure. And there was part of me, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take both. But I was like, no,
Right.
I'm not that either.
I would have been tempted, Allie. I did you not? I would have been like, you know what? I will take both of them.
Just
like, go ahead. Thank you.
but I thought about, I was like, well, it's like, do I pay for 2 pastries that I'm not gonna use? I was like, but yeah, it's like, it's in the moment, like my system normally wants to shut down and freeze. And so I think in the, like, taking the time to nourish and to find that big V energy, to, like, celebrate my life, I was able to transmit something else in that moment, not so much to her, but to myself. It's like,
Yes.
have a voice and back off my pastry.
Yeah. See, and I need to take moments of pause in situations like that, because in fight or flight, oftentimes I'm like, fight. And and it's like, I could feel that, like, when you're telling this story, I could feel like my blood start to boil, and I'm just like, oh God, if I were there, what would I do? And so taking the moment of pause and really using that big V energy to be smart and to be able to, like, de-escalate sometimes, but maintaining that boundary, like, don't talk to me that way, is also it's like equally as important. Tito feels it too, huh? You feel it, huh?
I'm doing the big V energy right here.
Girl, I get it.
Well, I think it's time to give Siobhan back to her kitties. They're already getting on top of her.
They are. They're very lovable guys. So they know who their mama is.
Well, I think we are actually at the place to start wrapping up our show for today on 96.5 FM. You've been listening to Que Madre Show here on 96.5 FM LP. We've been talking about big V energy. So if you're barely tuning in right now, tune in again. You can see us on YouTube. And so the show runs a couple times throughout the week as well. Tune back in. You can't miss this one or any of our other episodes, because they just, really are filled with a lot of healing, empowerment, and just ways that we can keep leading from the heart.
Thank
So
you, everyone.
you want to take us home?
Sorry, did you say me or Siobhan? I didn't hear.
Oh, Anna, yeah.
Oh, thank you all for listening. We love you so much, and we hope that you have a beautiful week.
Bye, everybody.